Oh, just a quick one. Was just looking through my teaching contract, and obviously we've got directed time, which is the number of hours that we're paid for to do the job. But I was just slightly concerned because teaching time of actually delivering the lessons seems to take up pretty much all of it. And I was just thinking, when am I supposed to get these other jobs done? But I'm sure you've got an answer for me. When am I supposed to do my planning?
Well, you'll be really pleased to know that we actually build in 2 hours of release time for you every single week in the form of your PPA. And the P in PPA stands for planning.
Well, that sounds completely reasonable, I guess. I mean, a bit of a squeeze to get my planning done in 2 hours, but we'll give that a good go. In that case, then, when am I supposed to prepare the lessons? Print off the worksheets, get everything ready for the lesson. If I'm doing DT, I've got to go and get all the resources, obviously in my own time. So when's that built in?
So the second P in PPA stands for preparation, and we give you 2 hours every week to do that.
All right, that's the same 2 hours I'm getting my planning done in, is it?
That's right.
Okay, cool. Interesting. What about assessment then? And I'm kind of worried because I know what letter assessment starts with. So let's see what your answer is. How am I supposed to get that done every term? Fill in all those detailed analysis online. That takes a long, long time. When am I supposed to do that?
Well, across the term, you'll have multiple weeks where we give you 2 hours of release time each week to get those jobs done.
Is that PPA?
That's your PPA.
Right. Okay. So PPA, I assume that's what they stand for. So surely then marking, 90 books a day, English, maths, science, that is something else, right? We've got a different kind of provision for that. I get some extra time, or I can get paid extra for doing that work outside of my contract. What about that?
It's funny you should mention extra time because that's exactly what we've built into your contract. You are given 2 hours every week in your PPA to get that done.
Yeah, we kind of established what PPA is for though, and it's kind of not already enough time for that, but all right, no problem. Moving on. We've got that sorted, marking. My year group leader, here's the thing. My PPA is set for a Wednesday afternoon. And my year group leader wants to have weekly meetings after school, outside of directed time, on a Friday. How on earth does that square up?
So some of your PPA time each week can be put towards those important meetings.
My Wednesday PPA time can be put towards my Friday after school meeting. Is that what you're telling me?
That's right.
Right. Okay, completely unhinged. Anyway, last thing, I did notice, obviously I'm in year 6 and the residential's coming up. Very exciting. I've seen that the policy, so your rule tells me I have to leave my home for a week. Fine. Okay, willing to accept that. Do I get a day in lieu? Do I put in for overtime into the office? How does that work?
Better than a day in lieu and overtime, we build in a whole day into your working hours. Across 5 weeks, you'll receive 10 hours of PPA.
That's PPA, isn't it? Yep. Okay, so my week-long residential away from home, I'm supposed to do in the same time for 1 hour a week when I do my planning, my preparation, my marking, my assessments, and my meetings every week, correct?
That's right, yeah.
You've been listening to an advert paid for by the Department for Education. Join teaching today to receive 2 hours of release time a week to complete 15 hours worth of work. Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Teach, Sleep, Repeat. This is episode 6. My name's Dylan.
And my name's Hayden.
And we just want to start off by saying thank you for the response to last week. Hayden, it was a bumper episode, right?
I mean, it was like more than double the length of what we have done so far, so yeah.
I think, I did check, it was just a few minutes away from being the full feature-length film Shrek. So quite an achievement.
Wow, and probably better as well, actually.
I think far more highlights, I'm sure, from that podcast. So first of all, thank you for that reaction. We did ask people to fill out a poll on Spotify if they listened, and we did ask them on Instagram as well. And every single person said that they preferred the longer one or they didn't mind. So it looks like you guys are really enjoying this and taking it all in. So thank you so much. We really, 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 really appreciate the kind words. We've had so much positive feedback and it makes us even more excited to carry on doing these episodes. So thank you for that. And on the back of that, whilst you're there, guys, lots of you have done this already as well, but I am going to ask something else. And Hayden, you probably know what I'm going to say. A rating would be really good. A rating would be lovely. We've already got about 17, I think, on Spotify, Hayden.
Yeah.
And it just gives us legitimacy, right? When people come along and they say, oh, this is a good podcast, seeing your reviews, they really help us out. And they've not been 1 star either, which is really cool. They've been 5. So as many of them as possible would be really, really useful. Thank you.
That is pretty awesome. And they can also reach us on other platforms too. Is that correct, Dylan?
Yeah, on Apple, on Amazon, whatever you're listening to us on. Thank you. And, whilst we're here, check out the old Instagram, eh? Yeah, running
yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
We've posted loads on there. We'll continue to post because we started to film the podcast as well. So, hello. You're not watching it live, but hello. If I make this into a reel, you'll see this. So
Please don't. Worst bit.
No one wants to see this.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're on Instagram at Teach Sleep Repeat Podcast. Give us a follow and join in on the chat. We have lots and lots of interactive things going on there. And that's me done, Hayden, for all of this. So I wanted to ask you, as always, how has your week been, my pal?
I've had a great week. As always, actually. I always have a great week. I had a funny week this week. I had some just funny moments with the kids, and I just love those little bits. They stand out. Today...
Before you jump in, I have noticed, sorry, because I did think this earlier, we're getting better and better at not talking to each other in the week.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of sad.
Have you noticed? Because I think to myself, I go to tell you something, I'm like, now wait, I can put that in the podcast.
Yeah,
so I don't come and tell you anymore, which is kind of cool in the way because I've managed to condense the amount of time I have to spend with you to just 1 hour a week, which is nice.
I did wonder why you've been trying to get me to do a podcast for honestly years. And I've realized now that this is it. You're so much happier now because I'm not talking to you every 5 minutes. It's brilliant. But now you've got
It just forces you to condense it to the actual useful information I want to hear. So how was your week?
Right,
I want to hear it.
Let me tell you, okay? Because anyone that's listened to a few of our podcasts will know what I'm referencing here. So I make up some silly games, right? Especially in maths. We had my blow dart game.
What was that? Blow dart game? Yeah.
Yeah, my blow dart times tables game last week. And I also talked about doing some times table shootout games, right? And I just love this little moment this morning. It's nothing crazy, but it just made me smile. A kid ran into my maths class and straight to me because I know if they ask quick enough, there might be a chance where I'm like, oh, go on then. They were like, can we play? And then they didn't use words. They just did, can we play? And the actions for shootout. And then just pretended to hold a blow dart and went, so good. And just this little moment, I was like, oh man, what have I done to these kids?
Can you imagine them going home and not using words and just using actions? Yeah, and they're like, Mr. Stevens did what?
Yes, I'll get in lots of trouble for this. But do you know what? Because they made me smile. I was like, yeah, we can. We're going to play both. So,
and do you know what you've done there? Do you know what you've done? You've got a child running into your classroom asking to do maths. That's brilliant.
I know. They're learning that. And I'll tell you what, their times tables are getting better because they don't want to lose because they get to stay up and play again. It's having a weird impact.
Mummy, can I do some times table rock stars tonight, please? Yeah? What's the matter, darling? Are you okay? Yeah, I just don't want to get tranquilized tomorrow.
No, Mummy, I can't do it unless you pretend to shoot me. What? Mummy, I can't solve this times tables. Can you just go and get that stick and pretend to shoot me with a blow dart? What?
It's 42. 6 times 7 is 42.
Oh, yeah. Well, listen, I've not had any complaints yet, so we'll see. We'll see. Watch this space.
Brilliant.
I know you want to tell your stories, but I've just got this one other thing that happened. It's a bit of a throwback again to a previous week and you'll remember when I was playing the 2 Truths and a Lie game, I said that a child responded to a question of mine with, your mum.
Your mum, yeah.
I couldn't believe a kid said that to a question, like to my face. Anyway, so we were playing speed stacks in PE. It's a bit of a cop-out PE lesson we do when...
Yeah, not very physical, right?
No, the hall was taken last minute. Like, it was raining outside and we have 2 PE lessons going on. Oh, it's a whole complex thing. I won't talk about it. But we couldn't do PE. We couldn't do yoga in the hall, which, of course I'm loving. My stretching, I didn't get my stretching in today. So we did the speed stacks. It's like a last minute thing. The kids love it. I don't know why. Because
they do.
I was doing it. I was like, okay, that was fun. 10 seconds. Don't want to do that again. Stacking some cups and they love it.
45 minutes straight, just like stacking cups.
They would do it every week. Every week. They'd love it. Anyway, played a little competition with them. They had to have team names. And one of them these really nice boys actually, they were just trying to be funny, make their class laugh. They all come up with funny team names, to be honest with you. And they came up with...
Chicken nuggets or something always comes up in these team names.
It's some strange names. Some of them are trying to take the mick out of me as well. I can't remember what it was, but it was all good fun. Classic. It was in jest. Yeah. Yep. And they were like, I was like, what's your team name? They were like, your mum. They were all laughing like, wait. Oh, and I just sort of dead seriously was like, oh. And I pretended to get my phone out and was like, I was just doing this on the phone, like, you're right, mum. Yeah, you need it for this game. At first they thought I was going to they thought I was about to get them in trouble. They thought I was going to tell them off because I was really serious face. Yeah, you need it for this game. And I just turned to the whiteboard and just wrote Mr. Stevens' mum as their team name. And they were like, no. I was like, oh, I wonder why you was bringing my mum into this. Is it just, they're like, no, it's just your mum with a UR. That was it. Well, yeah, it just made me laugh. Throwback to a previous episode.
I like the throwbacks. I like them links. We're rewarding the returning customers.
Customers? they're not customers, mate. They're not customers. We're not making any money yet. Not from this podcast, okay? Give it a couple of weeks and we'll be raking it in.
The mask slipped there, didn't it? Customers. You're all customers, me. Hello, listeners. You're no listeners anymore. You're customers.
Capitalism has gone to the brain.
Oh, literally. It's off that Roald Dahl story. Oh, it's all about capitalism. See? Returning back. Rewarding them.
Rewarding those customers. So
should we call them? Let's call them clients. Isn't that better? That's what they do, isn't it? In the marketing world, they're not customers. They're clients.
Yeah. Okay, can you tell the clients about your week?
Absolutely. that I feel that's going to be a returning thing now. My week absolutely fine. For my sins, I'm a Manchester United supporter, and anyone who follows football knows that it was a bit of a dark week. And we were talking recently again. Linking back as to how we we talk to the children. We let them know about ourselves. We try and build that personal bond with them.
Yep.
Huge thing for me, very popular obviously with a lot of children in our school is football. So that's something that I feel is a really easy win to kind of get in and build those bonds with the children. Every single child in this school knows I'm a Manchester United fan, and this is where it does backfire. Because on Monday morning, I was sat at my desk, at 8:30, children start coming in, and I could see one of my lads outside, right? Big football fan. He stopped at the door and obviously he turned and he'd seen someone, right? And I could see him because he was one of the first ones in. And actually he didn't come in straight away. I was like, okay. He'd walked back off, right? Literally walked past my window because where they come in, they walk past my window to come through the door.
Right.
He'd turned around and gone back. And I was like, okay, interesting. A couple other people walk in, streaming in. And then suddenly I see him again, but he's with another lad in my class and they're walking in together laughing. And I was like, okay.
You knew.
I know that you guys are football fans. Anyway, so the class now has like 6 or 7 people in this time where he'd walked back. And they just walk in through the door and they go 7-0 to the Liverpool, 7-0. But the rest of the class start joining in, even the ones who don't like football. All of them just chanting 7-0. And I swear, every single child I've walked past, obviously where I'm a year 4 teacher, I walk in the hall at lunchtime, the year 5s might be eating their lunch. Every single child, 7-0, 7-0. I was like, okay, yeah, okay, nice one. Every single child I've walked past this week. But I really love it because they love it. You know what I mean? They couldn't wait. I was on break duty on Monday. Break duty, the whole school are out on the playground. Every 2 minutes, one of the girls I taught last year come up to a huge Arsenal fan. She's like, hey, 7-0. And I was like, Arsenal were good as well. I can't even give you any banter back. That was my week, whole week of every single child who's into football coming up to me.
Just love it. And I know you probably the same. When children can find something that they can legitimately rinse you about, that's not like it's not like something where they could get in trouble. Do you know what I mean? They're not like taking the actual mick out of you. They've just found they latch onto it, don't they? Like you said, every child's like, what? We can say this at his expense, and we're not going to get in trouble. Yeah, Liverpool.
But don't you think though that genuinely that's a really nice thing to teach the children? Like it's a really nice thing to say. Look, we really strict. Our school, like every school, you cannot be mean. You cannot be horrible. You cannot pick on people. Bullying, zero tolerance. But just teaching them at your expense almost that where that line is and being really clear with them, not being unfair with them at all because you have these really strict lines saying that's unacceptable. But I've told you this information. We can have a joke, we can have a laugh, and kind of them experimenting with that line and not going too hard on them when maybe they do cross the line because you've kind of opened that door for them.
And
to then like shut the door, a bit unfair.
You're sort of modeling to them humility as well and showing them that it's like, this is how you take a joke, by the way.
Yes.
This is how you take a joke. You see how I'm taking this and I'm sort of giving a little bit back. I'm not getting offended or upset or like trying to be nasty to you now because you've embarrassed me a little bit. And it definitely does teach them. I think you're right. It's something that I actively go out of my way to try and do every year of every class. And I'll usually almost like identify the children where I'm like, oh, wow, they can't take a joke. Like they're the ones that go storm off and cry because of something like a little joke. And I'm like, right.
The ones who say maybe, she looked at me like this and it's like, but let's think about this. Probably that's okay. And it probably wasn't maybe a horrible thing for her to do. And I've had it before, especially in the football context. Someone come up to me once, one child was really distressed. And I wasn't saying he's wrong. You've got to make sure their feelings are, understood. And you say, what you're feeling is absolutely fine. Of course you can be upset at this. But then kind of just nudging them in the direction of, well, what can you do about it? And is it the end of the world? Because someone had said to him that his football team was rubbish. That was literally it. And I taking those moments to say, I promise you, as you grow up, if you're into football, people are going to say a lot worse about your team than simply they're rubbish. And it's just cool. Like learning where the line is, what's acceptable, and what you can do to actually take the joke and try and twist it into something funny and that everyone can laugh about.
I don't know about you, but I find that every year there's always one or two children, maybe a couple more, who are just really, really, really bad losers, right? Like they're sort of visibly less mature than the other children. They haven't sort of learned that lesson that we're talking about now, that humility. And they kind of stand out as like, oh, okay, you're sort of being maybe a little bit childish, younger than your age in terms of your reaction to this. And I find it's actually really hard not to, in the moment when they're sort of like sulking about losing or making a bit, stropping or whatever, to kind of pander to them. And it's taken me years to learn to be a little bit harsh with them, because I found that does seem to work better and it teaches them a lesson. I just call them out. Like, no, you're being a really bad loser right now, and it's, you're making a bit of a scene. You're making yourself look a little bit silly in front of everyone. You lost the game. You need to just get over it and then ignore them.
Absolutely.
Just move on. It's like I think those children, perhaps through no fault of anyone, because I would have done it as well, have been pandered to. That they'll do that, and then someone will go, "No, don't worry. Look, we'll play again. We'll play another round, and maybe you'll win that one." And then go out of their way to make them win, and then they're like, But
and actually, sometimes they don't win that next game, and it's worse. It's like it just backfires, right? And do you know what? I'm going to jump on what you're saying there, because it's something that really frustrates me about people who do not work in schools. The kind of people who say, kids these days, there's no losers. They all win it. They share everything. Sports day are no winners. And look, I know there are stories of that happening, right? But it's just not true. There are winners and losers constantly in school. Friday Celebration Assembly is all about who wins trophies, who wins tournaments, how we lost to the other schools when we came second, how we lost in the quarterfinals, how actually these children won the cross-country race. Let's give them a round of applause. And then let's give a separate round of applause for everyone who took part. It's actually not really ingrained in the culture that we don't have winners and losers. And I think people kind of just read it in the press. Like, these snowflake generation, they can't have winners or losers. Well, actually, a lot of the time there are. And children, like you're saying, we recognize it's bad to not lose. If you go through your whole childhood not losing, you're going to become a bad loser. And I think one thing that always stuck with me was when I was younger, I was definitely that bad loser. 100% that was me, right? Because I was ultra competitive. And I think as you get older, if you're not taught it, you kind of have to teach yourself that actually you're the annoying one. No one wants to play with you anymore. No one wants to play against you. If you win and you're happy and you gloat, and then you lose and you moan and you complain.
Someone was speaking to me in school, and it was earlier on in my career. So, when those kind of lessons come in and you just remember them, you're like, I never thought about that before.
Absolutely.
And it was that classic thing of like, maybe it was around sports day or something. We had to pick some children to take part in this competition. And my natural go-to was like, don't just pick all the sporty kids. Try to be more fair and like pick a fair selection, right? I think you know what I'm going to say, don't you?
Absolutely.
And someone was like, no. They were like, no, pick your sporty kids. They were like, because there are 12 other competitions going on this term for all of the different academic things and stuff in school and celebration assemblies. And quite often, and we're sort of playing on stereotypes here, but they were saying quite often those sported children, the ones that are really into that sport, that's their only passion. And they don't really like maths. They don't really like English. Obviously, that's not always the case, but it is sometimes. And they were like, so don't deprive them of potentially the only chance they're going to get to win something because you're too worried about the way it looks. You're too, but that child maybe has, I don't want it to look like I'm just favoring the ones that are into sports. Like, no, do pick them because that's what it's for. Like they want to go and compete in this thing.
And that's what they're good at. And I remember this vividly because that teacher was the art expert at school. And she made that exact point about art, right? Because she said, we're doing an art competition this term and all the artists will be celebrated. And the ones who come up with these unbelievable pieces of art, they'll be the ones at the front who get shown off because they're unbelievable artists who've done this amazing work.
Yeah.
And the children who, like you just said, who are sporty, who maybe aren't bothered, aren't interested, don't enter that competition. Suddenly, when it, like you said, when it becomes sports day, maybe they're just, they're frustrated because no, this is where I excel. And this is where actually we should let those children excel and let everyone else see what excellence in something looks like and join in. It's not either or. It can be both, right?
Yeah, definitely. Rather than taking it away from them and just showing them that it's like, no, it's not about how good you are. It's about making everyone feel good. So we've put you up here with these other children who have no interest in the sport just to look good.
Yeah,
exactly. I think, they were right. And it was a good lesson to learn.
It was really good. I love those lessons because I still draw on them now, and I bet every teacher does that. Those teachers who really, in their early stage of the career, properly molded the kind of teacher they are. Because whether you like to think it or not, and I like to say this all the time, as a student, when I went into a school to train for my first year, still good friends with this person, and you're good friends with her as well. I walked in and I was in awe. I was in awe of her teaching. And I remember thinking to myself, like after even half a day of someone who'd never been in a classroom before, I thought to myself, cool, I'm just going to copy her because she does everything exactly. She's happy. She's lovely with the children. She's patient. She doesn't shout. She listens to them. She's firm. She's strict and fair. And she was just helped me so much that I always tell her now, I say, you are me. Like you are what I want to be as a teacher. And that's what I've molded myself on.
I think I learned 99.9% of everything that it means to be a teacher and all of my teaching skills when I got the job. And, that might sound like I'm just saying, I didn't work very hard in my training year, but genuinely, it's just something else, isn't it? Having your own class and suddenly it really is your responsibility, and not kind of, not doing essays and having to go to university every now and then or whatever your course is. I look back and I'm like, oh man, no, my PGCE year, my training year, that was great. It gave me all the pedagogy and the foundation and the knowledge.
Sure.
But that NQT year, that first year, or my what would be an ECT year now, that's where I learned everything, absolutely 100%. Everything from stuff like that, seeing other people.
How many weeks? I'm going to ask you a strange question here. It's like a hypothetical. Okay. So you did a 1-year course to learn how to become a teacher at university, right?
Yeah.
How many weeks into the job did you feel like you learned more than what you did the whole year before?
I reckon within a month. So 4 weeks, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first time.
Yeah, let's call it a term to be safe. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that just goes to show what you're saying. And I think most people have the same thing. There is no replacement for doing the job. And I think what you need to have before going into your first year is probably really strong subject knowledge in like the basics, in the foundations.
Yep.
You're never going to know the ins and outs of ancient Egypt before you start, because you might be teaching the Maya, you might be teaching HG, you might be teaching about rivers, you might be teaching about, whatever it is that you've got specific to your curriculum in the afternoon. You don't need to be a master at that, but the basic English and maths curriculum and science, I'd say. If you're strong at that, cool. That's almost, and your basic pedagogy, that's almost all you're going to need before you start, isn't it?
I didn't know what I was doing when I started. I'm not afraid to admit it, because I think a lot of people feel like that and they don't want to admit it because we're like, oh no, we have to pretend that we know everything. I didn't have the foggiest clue what I was doing when I started. And like you said, that first term, I just learned everything. And I look back and it's funny because I was super worried about it all. And I look back and I'm like, no, we were all there. We were all there. Some are people, some are more confident than others. It's just natural. But I can confidently say I was on the bottom end of that spectrum. I did not know what I was doing. And I picked it up on the job, and it didn't take long to put all of that training into practice and make it make sense, put it all together.
And how invaluable, just on this note, how invaluable was it going and watching teachers teach?
The most valuable thing. Without it, it would have taken infinitely longer. Do you know what I mean? That's where I picked it up. That's how I got good. That's
where you take something and back into your classroom and do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you start to understand, because you're doing it in your classroom, you start to understand why it works or why you do it. It's not just in a book anymore.
Yeah, for sure. And like, I think what we're going to have to do is, I'm really looking forward to this again. We've got a whole list, but I think we'll do a whole episode on starting off as a teacher, maybe training. Yeah,
that's going to be our new thing. In every episode now, we'll say we're going to do a whole episode on something else, and one day it'll be an episode.
Well, we've got directed time. We've got training.
Yeah, so. Yeah. We've had some other things as well, didn't we? Anyway,
we've got a whole list. Yeah.
Should we move on?
What I really wanted to get into this week again, Hayden, because like you said, the list is as long as our arm. Luckily for you guys, if you enjoy the podcast, we've got enough content until Christmas 25. So, that's quite a long time to go. What I wanted to talk about this week was something that's really specific to us, I suppose, but that I am really passionate about talking to other people about. Mm-hmm. And it is surrounding basically our careers. Our careers have gone on very similar paths, and how we've ended up right now, both of us, we work part-time in school. We do 3 full days a week. It's been a long journey to get there. What we want to do is talk about, the pros and cons of going part-time, but to give a real context of how we got there, because we did start as full-time teachers, and we're in that almost honeymoon phase of being a newly qualified teacher, absolutely loving the job. And we just wanted to give the context of our business that we have outside as well, and how the kind of the two interlink, and just talk to you guys about how, the job is stressful. and how we over time have come to a kind of conclusion that it's all about balance, and it's ended up with us being 3 days.
Well, we've been on that journey of if you're thinking of like a stress journey in time, right? I think we've been at the bottom, we've been at the top, and I think that's part of the story. Do you mind if I jump in and talk about
go for it?
Past a little bit. So you'll probably notice, guys, that there's a little logo in the bottom left of our podcast. What's it called? Picture, our icon. And that is top.
It's called a picture, mate.
A picture. I was like, what's the thing? What's the word? Thumbnail.
What's the
That's
word
the one.
for the thing?
What's the word for that thing that we've made like 5,000 across our YouTube? Thumbnails. That's the one. Yeah.
Thumbnail.
So back in our careers, obviously we had that honeymoon period. Absolutely right, where we were just like every part of our life was teaching, and it's something else.
And we loved it. Loved it.
Yeah. But it's everything. You're consumed by it because we were so passionate, so into it. We didn't want to do anything but think about it. And obviously the best part of teaching is, as we've always said, being in front of the kids. Like, we love being in classrooms. But it didn't take too long, I'd say a year or two, to realize that teaching, there's a lot more to it. And, I won't go into the details because we have talked about it in a previous episode. But to summarize, there is a ton of admin. There's a lot of marking. There's a lot of planning. There's a lot of other stuff that goes around teaching. And we were like, well, this bit sucks. This is not that's not the good bit. This is the bit that we just have to do.
Can I jump on that really quickly and make another point on that? Because it's linked to that. And like you're saying about the admin sucks and stuff, what we also noticed was, and maybe you guys on the ladder of the main pay scale feel this, we kind of knew already where we'd be in 5 years. So after 1 or 2 years of teaching, we could look at the pay ladder, the stagnating pay ladder at the time with 0% increase. And, we could see that in 2025, whatever it was, we're going to be on X amount of money doing this many hours still. And watching house prices completely outrun that and just notice that we're getting further and further away from being able to afford our own place. We wanted to get on the ladder quickly as soon as possible. And the only way to do that really, was to try and become an assistant head or a head in that time, which wasn't realistic after 2-3 years of teaching, and plow our whole lives into it, or come up with another way of trying to make some money that's time efficient and, like Hayden could carry on saying now, is the part of the job we love.
So I'll jump straight into what we did. We got into tutoring, as a lot of teachers do. And it was I remember I still have a vivid memory of walking down a corridor with you and just talking about how I'd always had this idea. I've always been into sort of business anyway, and I like the idea of making something. And I was like, I want to do something with tutoring. I want to make like a tutoring business. And I remember talking to you, and we were fair, not new friends at this time, but we were only like 1 or 2 years into our kind of friendship.
Well, you think about the fact that, it was only through working in the same school that we kind of became closer friends, I suppose, rather than just acquaintances. And
your response was very much in line with like what I was thinking. And I was like, oh, that's cool. We're very much on the same wavelength here of this kind of passion to make something else. And that's kind of where the idea was born, and it just progressed from there. And then one day we'd spent all this time dreaming and talking about, we should do a business. We could start tutoring. We could do this. We could do that.
I think a lot of people can resonate with that, by the way, the idea of, a lot of people do think they go, oh, we can do this or that. And it's all about kind of just trying it, just doing it.
Yeah. And that's what you did. We did the classic thing. We talked about it a lot, as most of us do. We talk about it but never do it because it's a lot to do. And you were like, let's just do it.
I remember saying
I was like, yeah, we should. And you were like, no, like literally, let's literally make a business right now. Let's go on Company's House, the government website, and just make it.
And we thought of the name. I remember we went to your house that evening. Like you said, just taking that first plunge, right? That's what started this business off, because we could have really easily just not done that. But it took us, 10 minutes? We thought of the name, honestly. That's why it's Top Dog Tutoring.
As you can tell.
Yeah, we did spend ages. Yeah. What's a name for someone who's good at something?
Top Dog.
Yeah, cool. What are we doing? What are we doing? Oh, we're tutoring. All right. Top Dog Tutoring. Nice one.
I know that you're thinking of a funny story we can tell later about our name, but we'll come back to that. Right, listen up if you want to hear there's a hilarious story about our name, but we'll come back to it. We started our company. We were super buzzing because we love teaching, and we were like, hey, how can we do this thing where we only teach? We're like, let's make our own tutoring company, and then we can literally teach, and it's going to be amazing.
Like, all this admin bogging us down from the top down. SLT making up wait a minute. We are SLT of our own business.
Yeah, we did it. So, being passionate and a bit younger then, we didn't have our own houses and stuff. We were still working on that. We were really, really driven to do this thing. And like you said, we were at the bottom of the ladder. We needed more money if we were ever going to have any chance of getting on the.
Just for a context, very quickly, our annual salary was about, I think we worked out at the time, it was 12 times less than the average house price in our area. 12 times less. You think about a mortgage is 4.5, 5 times. We had no chance, and we needed the 10% deposit.
Yeah, exactly. So there was a lot of driving forces here. And obviously we bounced off our passion as well for teaching. So there was just, everything was just going in the right direction for us here. So we did it. We made a tutoring company, and it was on top of our full-time jobs. And that's an important context, because actually that is enough to put off a lot of people. It's an exhausting job as it is. So we started building this company, but it was mainly on our weekends, and it quickly consumed kind of every evening as well, and started eating into our actual time.
And I think the big point here to make is that we fully understand that not everyone's in that position. If you think about people with families, that's just impossible.
Yeah.
If you think about people, with caring duty, we very much took advantage of the fact we were in our young 20s, living at home.
Yeah.
We could just plow our time into it. So we're not saying, hey, why doesn't everyone just do this? Because there's nothing more annoying than when business owners say, why don't you just do 70-hour weeks all the time? Because no one wants to do that.
Yeah, you see some diary from some CEO. Oh, that's a podcast. I was trying to avoid the name. I was like, don't say the name. Yeah, I was thinking, just a book or anyone, and they're like, yes. And you look into the history and it's like, millionaire parents. It's like, they would they've just given the time and money to do it. But we recognize our own privilege, that's for sure. We were really privileged to be living at home still at the time. We had that free time. We didn't have a family to look after, all this stuff. But we jumped on it, but it was stressful still. I'm not going to say like, it was just it was a dream from there on. It was easy. It was very, very time consuming, and it absolutely ate into our personal lives.
I think it kind of accelerated our thoughts towards thinking that teaching is not long term.
Yeah, it's kind of depressing, isn't it? But it's something that a lot of people agree with. I think teaching's not long term. And usually when I ask someone, do you reckon you'll be teaching at 65? I'm talking to people that are like in their 30s, and they look at me as if like, that's obviously you're joking. Of course I won't be. They usually say things like, I won't be doing this in 10 years. There's no way. It's a burnout job.
And do you know what someone said to me once was, I asked that same question because I always find it really interesting, because I've genuinely never heard someone say yes. Right. So that's crazy to me. Like, what a situation for a job to be in. And it really hit me when they said, no. Worst come, if I have to take a job, I'll just go and work in a shop. I'll just go and work in a shop. Obviously, I worked in Asda. Absolute saints work in those shops. But the idea of a teacher with such a skilled set of, very precise, isn't it? Being a teacher, it's a very a certain set of skills. Saying that they don't want to continue using them because the job is so toxic to them in the long term and burns them out, that they want a job that's different somewhere else, where they don't have to have those out of work stresses. They want to go home, and that's the end of their job.
And we definitely recognise that. I think we were very observant. We listened to a lot of other people, and we could see that future. Like you said, we saw our pay progression, and we were like, oh, okay, so that's kind of it in a few years' time. And no one seems to be lasting in the career forever anyway. So we kind of need another way out of this rat race for ourselves. And that's kind of, there's all these factors that were born into the kind of tutoring company. But that was 5 years ago. So we've built this company over 5 years, and the first 3.5, almost 4 years of that time, we were building that company on top of our full-time teaching jobs. And I can speak for both of us when I say that curve of kind of stress and time we were having to put into the business, as it just naturally grew, because we were passionate about it, and we're very driven to keep growing. We didn't want to just sort of stop.
Yep.
We hit the top, didn't we? It was like, we can't keep doing this. And we both had a bit of over the summer holidays, wasn't it? We sort of had a discussion. I remember we were like, we're burning out. We are going to, if we do this for another year, we're going to burn out. Like, we're not as young as we were, so it makes us sound really old.
It's true.
We're not, we're not in that honeymoon period anymore. We're finding more and more stresses of this job. We can't do this. So what do we do?
At that point, it became more and more realistic for us. Still a risk, okay? Because at this point, I would say, we started to do some maths, basically. We started to say, okay, what is the maths of going part-time? And this really shocked me. Even though I kind of knew the logic, I kind of understood what would happen if I took the hit. It was nowhere near as bad as I thought it was going to be. So we did some maths, basically. The idea of the part-time contract is that we are worked 3 days a week out of 5. Okay. So where our time in school reduced by 40%, which means we can spend days on our business, which we needed to, which freed up our weekend, which we were ending up doing it in then. Our 40% time reduce. Hayden, you tell them the number. What did our pay go down by?
Well, I'm just going to hype this up a bit more because most people would naturally assume, well, your pay packet will go down 40%, and that's what people do when they calculate it. But it doesn't, because if you think about the way tax brackets work, I won't go into the details, we actually ended up losing from our take-home pay almost precisely 25%.
Mm.
So it was like, hang on, we're losing a quarter of our pay, but gaining 40% of our time, 2 days, 2/5 of our time back. It was not as bad as we thought, right?
Not nowhere near as bad. And I think one of the biggest points for us at that point was to look at the difference, right? And I would implore everyone to do this. And I'm well aware we're in the midst of a cost of living crisis. I'm well aware that we are on strike for our pay going up at the right level. So me sat here then also saying, have you thought about going part-time? Might be a little bit condescending. Not the point we're trying to make though is it's worth looking at the maths for your well-being and for your time, especially number one, if you have dual income in your house and you know that time can be used doing something else and your partner might earn a certain amount where your bills are already covered. But number two, if you are thinking of doing some kind of side business, trying to do something extra as well, where actually that amount of money, the tipping point for us was where we were earning the difference and a bit extra. So we are actually from our business on the side, we could say, cool, we can take off and take the hit from our pay, but actually replace it with what we're doing with our business. So at no point was this as much of a risk as what it might be to a lot of people. So we understand that when, again, we're not here being these people saying, yeah, we started the business. Why don't you just start a business and go part-time? No, it's risky. We did minimal risk as we could because we got the business to a point where we could replace that income. And we've not really looked back since, have we? How's your well-being been, Hayden? Because we talk about it every now and then, but I'm actually really interested to take a moment of reflection now. And that for me, it's allowed me to fall back in love with teaching more than I did at the point where I was kind of just burnt out. And don't get me wrong, of course we talk about the pros and cons of teaching, but it allowed me to really just focus on going in for 3 days and giving quality teaching as much as I can with someone who isn't an exhausted shell of a man.
Yeah, it's similar for me. It's like it's allowed me to compartmentalize my time a bit more. Because as you know, like neither of us are particularly well organized when it comes to like compartmentalizing our time normally. And what we'd fallen into was this amalgamation of we just work every hour of every day, kind of. You know, it was like we get to the evenings, oh, have we got stuff to do? Yeah, we kind of need to do this and this. Oh, okay, get to the weekend. Oh, I've got to do planning for that. Actually, we need to do some stuff for the business as well. And it was just eating our time. So for me, the well-being improvement that I've had is when it gets to Saturday and Sunday now, I know exactly what I'm doing. And it's usually the fact that I've done all of the business stuff on that Thursday and Friday, and I've managed to do my Monday to Wednesdays, I've done the school stuff, and my weekends are back to me again, which is nice after many, many years of not really having that luxury anymore through our own creation, you know?
Yeah, and exactly that. And it was, we played the long game and it has paid off. And again, we're not just saying this, but like, hey, look what we've got. It's a genuine conversation about, flexible work. And it's a big thing for people coming back from maternity leave, sorry. And it's a big thing just in general for lifestyle. We've seen in the private sector, I don't know, you must have seen it in the news, Hayden. They did a huge experiment of the 4-day working week where they literally took a day off. The pay stayed the same. Some businesses went from an 8-hour day to a 10-hour day. So it was still 40 hours, if that makes sense. So 4 lots of 10 and 8, whatever that 8 times 5. So it was like the same hours, but they were way more productive. And the idea of the well-being impact from having an extra full day, it takes away from your weekend. I hated Sundays. Sundays were just a day of, cool, I'll do the planning, then we'll do the washing, then we'll do the housework, then we'll do the shopping.
Yeah,
it wasn't a day to yourself. It was another day of work, but just making sure the house was running.
And I know there's another analogy that's even like related to teaching. I know this is true because I've spoken to loads of teachers now where some of them have part-time contracts where they work every morning. So they still do 5 days a week. They just finish at maybe like 12 or whatever. And I spoke to other people who are on the same contract in terms of pay, but like us, they'll do it in days rather than mornings, and they work 3 days. And 100% every single time, the people, some of them have done both actually. They're the most valuable people to speak to. Well, they've switched across. My planning partner, my partner teacher, my job share teacher literally has done that, gone from 5 mornings, and said it's just so much better to have an actual day of not working, even though the 3 days she does, the hours are the same, but they're condensed into 3 days. And because when you work 5 mornings, you're still working 5 days. Your days are kind of, it's a work day, you know? It's hard to be like, oh no, it's not a work day, it's a half work day. Well, you still worked for like 4 or 5 hours in the morning. It's a work day.
If you're getting up before 7 and having a shower, that's a work day in my opinion. Not having a shower in general. I mean, having a shower before 7.
Hang on a minute, Dylan. I'm pretty sure you never get up before 7 and never have a shower. So,
Okay, I'm really looking forward to this one because it seems like over the last few episodes, we've had like a new feature every time and they're always really cool. And they're kind of born out of you guys sending us stories because I'm constantly asking them on our Instagram. So if you haven't heard or you're not there already, Teach, Sleep, Repeat podcast, go and have a look on our Instagram because I'm constantly asking for questions and I'm constantly getting really cool stories. And we've had one message that kind of sparked a thought in me that has now snowballed, and we've got some from different teachers as well and different people and also just past experiences that we've heard of. We're going to do a new section now, Hayden, and it's called Confessions of a Teacher. And I know that you've got some ready as well that I haven't heard. Yep. I've got some ready that you haven't heard. And I just thought we could bounce off each other now. And these are those really, really embarrassing stories that are completely harmless. But if you ever got caught or if someone saw these situations, you would just be horribly embarrassed. So they're all anonymous, of course. You'll have to guess which ones are actually us. And we're just trying to pretend they're anonymous because I'm sure Hayden's going to have a few in there that's really him. So I thought we could get started. We're just going to go back and forth here. I'm going to read them out and we're just going to blind react to each other's, okay?
All right, go for it.
Okay, number 1. I once sat down on my teaching chair during teaching time.
That's a joke. I was like, is there more to this? Or you were just seeing how to react to last week?
It's a throwback.
Wow, our customers are going to love that. Right, go on, do the real one.
So embarrassing. Ha ha ha. Gavin Williamson caught me sitting down. I'm so lazy. Ha ha ha. Right, okay. Real first one.
Go on.
I once went 4 terms from Christmas until the end of the year without once looking or marking at the afternoon work of my class.
Oh, God. Oh, exposing the truth.
How?
Oh, you know how, Dylan, because people are just so busy marking English and maths that they're like, ugh.
No. I'm not saying how has this guy done that. I'm saying how has he got away with it or she.
Oh, I see. I thought you were trying to be like, how could he not mark? I was trying to justify why they might not be doing it.
Completely. There's nothing more demoralising than sat down at the end of the day and seeing a maths pile and an English pile and a topic pile. Yeah, but I just don't understand how do you get rid of it.
Yeah, because I mean, it depends which school you're at, I guess. But I've just thought most schools do like things like book looks and stuff.
I just thought it was hilarious. And it was just like, it was said in a proud way as well. It was said in a proud way to me. Just to clarify quickly, it's not mine. If anyone's listening.
Oh, little anyone's listening, they did a little eye twitch there. Could be. I'm only joking. Well, this is funny because you've not seen this confession I've got, and it's hilariously related. And I'm not going to lie, kind of one-ups your story. So you ready for this?
Okay, all right, go on.
Someone wrote this in. Marking at primary is ridiculous. I'm glad they started with that. Clearly listen to our podcast. Hours upon hours every day, looking through children's work, just to do it all again the next day. One time, in my first 2 years of teaching, as a little win for my own sanity and personal time, I managed not to mark my RE books for 2 years. 2 years before anyone noticed, and I just pretended that I thought it was policy not to question their thoughts and beliefs. What a rubbish excuse. Got away with it. Got away with a simple "you're an idiot" look from the peers.
Oh, that's unreal. That is unreal. What a line to come out with, like on the cuff. Like,
2 years.
I thought it was wrong. As if also, we don't only teach, like, RE isn't just, what do you think every week? And they write down their thoughts. We learn about different religions. Yeah, sorry, my class, actually, they swap religions every time. And I don't want to question them, so.
It's all about their beliefs. And actually, I don't think it's right to write in their books because it looks like I'm questioning them. I can just imagine some terrible excuse to get away with it. So there you go. That's very funny that it's like basically the same story.
Yeah. That's 10 out of 10. Okay, I've got another one here, and I'm actually jealous of this. I want this story. I want this confession to be mine, and it's not. And when this came in, I thought, oh my gosh.
Cool.
So this person says, I have secret access to the stationery cupboard key and feel like I've won the lottery. I have to get into school before 7 a.m. or stay after 6 so that I can raid the cupboard, but I have glue sticks galore and all the coloured Post-it notes that you could imagine. I honestly, I replied straight away to this one saying like, what? I am so jealous. And she just went, yeah, a girl's got to do what a girl's got to do. The idea of getting in, trying to get in before SLT to go into a cupboard because you have none of it otherwise. Why is it in there anyway if you need it so bad?
yeah, that's true. I bet every school has at least one captain hoarder. Just the person they know to go to is like, they're always like, yeah, come on. We won't tell SLT, don't worry, but I've got like, 50 boxes of pencils back in it. Don't worry about it. Like over the years, I've not used them. I've just stacked them up. I just know
we kind of need them. Please, can we have them?
Can we have them? Yeah.
So she went on to say, not even our deputy heads have access to the sacred key. The TA that worked with me last year mentioned she was given a master key for some reason, and I told her to guard it with her life and tell no one. So she actually keeps it, but she goes to her for access. So she doesn't even have the key. It's the ultimate crime. It's the ultimate teacher confession that if someone came around and said, someone's been accessing it, have you got a key? Like, no. She doesn't even have the key.
No, that's like ruthless. I would be able to do that. I think I'd go red.
Honestly,
that reminds me a lot of our that unbelievable Pritzker story that we're going to tell at some point. We'll save it. But it just reminds me of that. I've got another confession here. Okay. So another one written in. I've actually forgotten it. I'm going to read it myself again. Work out what it is. At school I once worked in. Used a really complex digital teacher assessment tracking tool, where we had to assess all of the children against hundreds of objectives across multiple subjects. So if anyone that doesn't work in a school, it is exactly that. Assessments by teachers based on what you think the children can do based on your lessons you're marking, okay? And just keeping track of every objective you teach. It can be quite time consuming. We were given
you don't necessarily do like a piece of work, right? It's just what you think at the end of the lesson.
Yeah, basically, and I mean, this will clarify when they do it. So it said we were given no additional time, classic, to do it. And it was just expected to kind of get done magically after every lesson all week. So I guess that was the idea, right? They had to regularly update this assessment of these children, whether they got the objective or not, or like excelled or whatever. Because they went nowhere and teacher assessment was overridden by test scores anyway, I just used to wait until they finished their tests and make up all the backdated teacher assessment so that it matched their test scores, right? And I'm like, yeah, okay, I can see that. But this bit is even better. One time I was called to the office to talk about my teacher assessments and I knew I'd been caught. Turns out I was praised for having such accurate assessments and I was asked to lead a staff meeting on how to use the tracking tool effectively. So yeah, quite funny. No way. Backfired in a way.
That's unreal. Yeah, because then you have to go in and tell them the really stringent way that you do them.
Oh yeah, they would have just had to completely blag it, wouldn't they? Blag it in that meeting.
Guys, it's really easy actually. It's really easy. Wait until you see what they get and just put it in after.
Yeah. Walk out the room. You know how our teacher assessments don't sort of go to anything ever? So what I did was I just didn't do them. And then when we did those tests where the scores do go, I just used them.
It's when you're sat in a pupil progress meeting at the end of the year and they just whip out the test scores. You're like, oh, are you going to use any of that stuff that I did every time for the... No.
No.
Oh, okay. All right. Oh, no problem. Yeah, no problem.
Why do we do it? Well, just in case someone asks. Aren't you the people that ask? No. It's a case officer come in.
Say the old word. Exactly that. Exactly.
Case officer come in. So we look like we're doing teacher assessments even though no one cares about them. We haven't used them since 2014. Oh, okay. Right. Got you.
But hey ho, here we are. This is the wonderful word of teaching, guys. I've got another one. Okay. This one really, really cracked me up because it's not me, but I absolutely resonate with this and I've got a joint story that comes on after it, okay?
All right.
So, as we all know, as teachers, just for the context, when it's someone's birthday in class, they quite often bring in some sweets. They bring in something to give to the class. At the end of the day, we sing happy birthday and they get some sweets, to one for each child. So, this story, it really cramped up. So this boy's birthday. He'd brought in sweets and they were those bags of Haribo. Okay, so bags of Haribo, and you end up with like 12 in a bag, and they bring in loads. There's always some left over. So once the children went, he'd left a bag, and it had 10 to 15 of those small Haribo packets left inside. Oh, the teacher walked back in after a long day, after dismissing his children, saw there were 10 to 15 Haribo packets left, ate all of the Haribo, didn't think much of it. going through his books. And then at 4:20, after club finished, which the boy in question actually went to club, came back to see him to pick up his sweets. As those leftover sweets had been explicitly told by his parents that they were for his party the day after at the weekend.
Oh no.
He walked back in and asked for them. And the teacher was mortified, but managed to save face and explained how, I'm not sure where they've gone. Maybe the cleaners have, or maybe something had happened. It all went fine until he looked at my desk and saw 3 empty packets on my laptop.
Oh no, that's so bad. That is, I would be, honestly, I felt horrible. I'd go to the shops immediately, but like,
yeah. The mum had said, make sure you bring the spare ones. It wasn't just spare. Make sure you bring them back. You got your birthday party tomorrow. We'll get them out. It's for my birthday.
Just imagine leaving, right? You take this kid out, you're feeling really bad. And the mum just looks to you and you've got 10 Haribo rings on your fingers when you were playing with them. Just like, I just don't know. I don't know what happened. I'm really sorry.
There were 10 packets. It just falls out your pocket or your breast pocket.
Gummy bears falling out your shirt when you're
just there picking out your tooth. Like, I don't know. Sorry,
Oh God. Something happened today. It just reminded me. I forgot to say this earlier. Today, I was in my cupboard, and it was at lunchtime. We've ordered a bunch of marshmallows for DT, right? Because we're doing like structures. We're making structures with like spaghetti and marshmallows. Yeah. Okay. Classic thing, right? And we ordered too many. Too many marshmallows.
Did we? You did the maths. You ordered twice.
Yeah, I was like, we need this many bags. So ordered these much. I was in my cupboard. I was like, Ooh, they're open at lunchtime, and I just ate like 4 of them, like big ones as well. These big, and I came out sort of munching on the last bit of them. And as I came out of my cupboard, which you can't see through, so I didn't know no one was there. Just a child walking through, just grabbing a book, and she looked at me, and I looked at her. She knew exactly what the hell I was doing, and I just sort of smiled at her because she's like one of the nicest kids ever. And I just sort of looked at her, and I was like, "Yeah, I am eating those marshmallows that I told you not to eat in DT."
Guys, it's really important. We only have enough marshmallows for every single child to build their structure. Do not
got to
eat
go to the next class.
They've got to go to.
Afterwards,
but sir, we're the last ones to do this. They've got to go to the next class, okay?
I'll use the next year.
My mouth. That was our new feature of Confessions of a Teacher, because I think that just allows for some really funny stories to come forward. So as always, get in touch in the email, teachsleeprepeatpod@gmail.com, or come to our Instagram and let us know your teacher confessions, because that was one of my favorite little bits that we've done so far on the podcast. Really fun.
Definitely.
So the last thing we want to do is the classic. It's kind of linked because we've had some stories, but we've got stories from the classroom. Hayden, you've got a funny one. I've got a nice one that I want to share with you before we finish this week. Let's jump straight in.
Nice. Well, it's not going to be too long this week, is it? Because my story is fairly short, but I know that you like this one. It's my expense. So Dylan was trying to retell me the story earlier, and I was like, no, come on, listen. I'll tell the story properly on the podcast because he's forgotten. He's forgotten how it worked. Can
I give the very, very brief overview so you can jump in with the details?
Yeah, go on.
So essentially what happened was, in our school, we had a bit of a push at the time in English PDMs of word meaning and vocabulary. It's a big thing for our school, making sure children are expanding their vocabulary as much as possible. And one of the things we really focused on was strategies on how the children could work out what a word means when they just don't know. Because we're going to have test questions that say, testing them about what a word means. And sometimes the children have just never heard of it before. So we have loads of strategies that we've taught them, looking for root words, looking for a suffix that means maybe the opposite of something, looking at the context of the whole sentence. And a really big one was swapping the word in for a different word and seeing if it still makes sense, that kind of thing. So Hayden obviously was reading his class text to his class, and they came across a word that they were unsure of. Hayden, take it from here.
Right. First of all, context. We were reading Floodlands by Marcus Sedgwick. And it's funny that this story's come up because I'm literally reading that story at the moment with my class. And this word, I read past this word last week actually. And I was like, how funny. And I started giggling, and I had to tell my class this story because they were like, why are you laughing randomly in this sentence? It wasn't even, it was a dark sentence as well. It's like not funny. So I want you to imagine this. If you've got a pen and paper at hand, I want you to write this word down. If not, just think of the letters, okay? Because I'm not going to tell you what it says because, it's such a complex word. Ready? UNDERFED. Okay? Just write that word down. Right? You might see that immediately and think, what is he talking about? I read that word in a sentence out loud to the class as undurfed. And with my reading, like all this reading training we've been doing in mind, I was like, oh, what a great opportunity. I was talking like this to the class. What a great opportunity to explore some word meaning.
Because you didn't know what it meant, because you read undurfed and never heard of it before.
I was like, what was this? It was a verb. I was like, it's a verb, guys. It's being used as a verb. Okay, I think it was. It probably wasn't. An adjective, maybe. And I was like, I've never heard of it before. What do we think undurfed means? Guys, 10 seconds, talk to your partner. Read it around the sentence. Read the sentence with undurfed in it. See if you can work out what it means. And I was like, looking at my screen, thinking I'm going to get the dictionary up in a minute on Google or something. We'll look at it together.
You didn't know it.
The definition.
Very quickly, we've done that. Which teacher has not done that before when they just don't know and they say, why don't you talk about it? Oh, you have a little chat. And you secretly go to your laptop like, oh, I'm going to search that really quickly.
Yeah. Or you blag it and you're like, do you know what? I can think of the definition, but there's a better one on Google. I'm just going to check what it says. I just have no idea what it means.
I want to make sure I just get it right, guys.
Kids go along with it, right? They're thinking about what this undurfed means. All right, it was describing children. I've just remembered the context of the sentence. It was describing children in floodlands. It's like a story, like a post-apocalyptic story, right? And
so undurfed children,
these undurfed children, a starving community, sort of thing. And so I go to Google and I start typing it in, thinking, what's undurfed mean? And I type in undurfed, and then they sort of give a bit of feedback of what they think it might mean. They're like, maybe it means like really skinny. Maybe because we know the context of the sentence of these children being in a deprived city where there's no food left. I was like, yeah, brilliant. And I looked at undurfed and I was like, wow, like well done. Because it was saying, yeah, when you've not had much food. That's fantastic. And this boy, and it's so annoying because this boy was like the smuggest boy in my class. I love this kid, but he was just any opportunity he could get on me, he got it. And this was like the ultimate win. Put his hand up, already smiling. It's like, Mr. Stevens. I was like, yes, yeah. It's like, I think that says underfed. And just this like wave of embarrassment just flooded my whole head. I don't get embarrassed easy, as you know. I very rarely get embarrassed. I'll just play it off. Oh man, and I couldn't believe I'd spent like a whole minute doing exercises and thinking, this is such a good example of quality teaching.
Where you get them teacher?
Yeah, underfed. I just saw "un" as a prefix and thought, oh, root word durf. And that's what I said as well. I said, what do you think durf means? The root word durf.
The root word durf?
That's what I did that. I was like, we've got un, we've got ed, thinking, prefixes, suffixes. What do you think durf means? Undurfed, man. What an idiot. Underfed. And the kids just howled. They laughed so much because they were like, they're almost like, I can't believe. Because some of them probably fell into that trap as well because I convinced them.
Yeah, of course.
This is this other word. And they realised it just says the underfed children, obviously. I didn't even twig at the definition stage on Google.
Oh my God.
I was like, it's just another word for starving.
Okay, so my story, I'm well aware that we go on about how we love this job, and we do, but I'm worried sometimes that we kind of fall into a trap of just going into a rant, okay, and kind of complaining about something. So I wanted to finish with a nice story, okay?
We love this job. This is about how much we hate it.
I know,
we don't want that to come across, do we?
I wanted to just, exactly, look into actually why we do love this job, and it's usually connections with the children, right, and helping them out. I taught this lad previously. He's higher up in the school now, but still in the school. And I had a really nice relationship with this lad. I felt like I really understood him and he got on with me. And it was just such a nice year teaching him. I really enjoyed it. And he would have problems sometimes controlling his anger. He'd get angry very quickly. But the thing I was so proud of him about, this is going to be a story from the assembly again. I'm going to start crying, Hayden. The thing I was I'm joking. Not yet. The thing I was really proud of him though, because over the year, he really developed such maturity where you can't control getting angry. And we spoke about this. All emotions are acceptable and fine. You cannot control getting angry. He of course you can't. You get annoyed, right? But he got so good at just recognizing it quickly, understanding he was angry, and taking himself out of situations. And he would frequently come up to me and say, I've got really annoyed and I've thrown my bag on the floor. And he'll say stuff like this. And I would always heap him with praise for well done, because that could have escalated. You stepped away and you've told me you've recognized it. And I just remember saying to him at the end of the year, I was like, you're so ready to go up to, when you make a big deal the next year, when it's not a big deal, but you're saying you're so ready for year 5 because you've got so much maturity. And you really do just know when to step away. And I just basically bigging him up. I was like, well done. Yeah. And So what happened was I was on duty, and this lad, he's on the playground, and the classic thing was happening. Okay, this group were just playing. He was getting frustrated because one of them maybe wasn't playing by the rules. Legitimate thing to get frustrated about. He wasn't being out of order, but he got angry. And I saw him getting angry from across the playground. So I make a beeline for him straight away, right? Just so he can see me. And he clocks me. And you could see him kind of realize and go back into that moment of, okay, oh no, I'm getting annoyed. Okay, I've seen Mr. Pride. I remember Mr. Pride. We've spoken about this before. And you could just see it kind of click in his brain. And he walked over to me. And I didn't even mention the fact he was getting angry, right? I just made him laugh. I said something silly. I can't remember exactly what I said, but the point was I was taking his mind off it straight away because he knew, I knew, I didn't have to go and talk to him about getting angry or not because it's acceptable and he knows what to do in that situation. So we ended up just having a chat for a minute. He calmed down. He went off laughing. He was on the edge of getting really annoyed and working himself up and maybe getting upset. He went away laughing and I was like, oh, cool. That's really nice. And I was very content at that. And what really, this is the part of the job that you do just love, because the day after I walked into my classroom and on my desk was a note and he'd written it and it said, Mr. Price is really nice. I've had him once, but I want him twice. Like he wanted me when he went into year 6 or something.
Yeah.
As his teacher again. And I genuinely got not upset, but I was like, that is in a picture, in a piece of writing there, that impact that you can have on a child just by building those relationships with them and genuinely being caring and interested in what they have to say and helping them. Yeah. And I remember because he came to me after to check I got it. And he said to me, and this was another layer to this that I really appreciated, was he said, oh, did you get my letter? I was like, oh, thank you so much. It was so lovely. I really appreciate that because you were lovely as well. And I wish I could have you again in my class. That'd be really nice. Yeah. And then he said, I didn't cry. I've had years now to practice my assembly cry and it's gone. Okay? But he just said to me, he was like, yeah, my mum helped me write that last night. And the idea that he'd gone home, kind of just understood that interaction helped him, really appreciated it, and asked his mum to help him like do something to show his appreciation. That really, really, really made me feel happy. And again, it's those moments where you're like, this job's amazing. This job is exactly the job that I want to have because you're going to have an impact on these kids' lives.
I think you have basically captured the essence of what is so beautiful about this job. And it is enough for most of us included, because we're still doing it. It is enough to override all of that stuff that we joke about and we moan about and we rant about and we talk on behalf of people writing in about, it's enough, those moments. That's why we do it. Yeah, that was a nice story.
Absolutely. And I just thought, I think every now and then we have to ground ourselves and put that out there as well, because I bet you've all got a story like that, especially if you work in a school, of just those moments where you go, yeah, this is what I do. This is what I do. And I love it.
And you know what? That story's really got me thinking, because like the sentimental value of that just reminds me so much of the kind of core essence of the Pritt story that we're so desperate to share.
The Pritt story. It is,
doesn't it?
It's a tearjerker. Unfortunately, we are out of time for this week.
Are we? Oh Christ! Yeah. Okay. We won't do it now then, because it's a big story. So we will obviously save it for
do a whole episode on it, right?
Yeah. We'll do a whole episode on the Pritt story. It's a good story.
It's a great story.
Want to tell it, but
guys, thanks so much for listening. Again. And if you got this far, then thank you so much, and we really appreciate you. See you next time.
Thanks for being our favourite customers. Bye.